Hello and welcome to another An Old Man Watches, and today I'm going to be talking about The Frankenstein Syndrome from 2010. This film has a number of other names as well, which I'll talk about in a bit more detail later on. But basically, the plot of this one is that the FBI arrive at a woman's house to question her regarding events that have happened at her workplace. The woman explains that her job was at a stem cell research laboratory where the team secretly ventured into experiments that contravened the law. Their research led to the accidental discovery of a serum that was capable of reviving dead cells, bringing dead cells back to life. Quite the breakthrough. Unfortunately, and there's always an unfortunately, a disgruntled security guard at the facility threatened to leave and sue the company. And given that obviously if their activities were discovered, everybody there would be facing serious jail time, the people in charge perhaps overreacted and had him disposed of in a permanent manner. And then to further compound things, showing the kind of poor judgment that people in this kind of movie often have, they decided to use his corpse to test their new serum. Now, it's hard to imagine how that would have ended well if you bring back a guy you murdered. Bring back a guy you murdered to life. That doesn't seem like it's going to end well, even if the serum just brings you back to life and doesn't do anything else. But of course, it soon emerges that it's done a whole lot more than that to our security guard friend. So this is a low-budget horror movie. It's actually a fairly entertaining little movie, rattling along pretty well for its sort of sub 90-minute runtime. I think probably in terms of actual movie, I think the official length is 87 minutes, but once you take out credits and we're probably talking about like 80 minutes of film time. And it has a few aspects that I thought worthy of discussion. So first of all, on the subject of titles, the original title of this film was The Prometheus Project, and that's the name you're going to find it on in IMDb if you look it up. But for the DVD release, they switched it initially to The Frankenstein Experiment, and then they've switched again to The Frankenstein Syndrome. So I'm using the most recent title. I'm not sure what the reason is for all the rebranding. Often when a movie changes its title multiple times like that, it's a sign it's a very bad film and it's trying to dodge its own reputation. But as I said, this is a pretty good little movie, so I don't think that's the case here. But whatever the reason is, the Frankenstein names are a much more obvious nod to the inspiration behind the film, which is obviously Mary Shelley's famous novel. Because we tend to forget that the original title of that novel is Frankenstein or The Modern Prometheus. In any case, I thought it was a good film to discuss the concept of adaptation versus inspiration, because this is clearly not a direct adaptation of the book. The book, is set in, then current times for Mary Shelley. So I'm guessing a couple of hundred years ago now, and it ends in the Antarctic. This film is set in the modern day. Nobody goes to the Antarctic. The kind of technology that they're using is different. The characters that are in it are different. The outcomes are not the same. But it's certainly not hard to see the inspiration that Shelley's novel had. I mean, we've got cutting-edge research, at least returning a man to life, and then the reanimated man becoming the nemesis of those who created him. So it's clear that this is inspired by Frankenstein, but it is not Frankenstein itself. And honestly, I'm not a big fan of 100% faithful adaptations. I'm not one of those people who gets upset because it's not like the book. I actually think that it is much better for a cinematic adaptation to take inspiration from an earlier story and ask the question, what are the themes of this work and how do we convey them on the screen, rather than, well, let's just film the book. I'll one day do a video about the film version of The Maze Runner, which successfully turns a terrible book into a watchable movie, and you can bet that video will be all about how the film people improved on the nonsense of the novel, because oh my god, it's a terrible novel. But yeah, I mean, even if you so to think about the themes or just re-platform it into a new genre, re-examine the story in a new light, do something with it when you draw inspiration. Don't just and genuinely adapt. Don't just put the book on the screen. Because if you start just even as simply as changing your medium and genre. I mean, if you think about the original 90s The Lion King, it's a cracker of a film, but it's basically just Hamlet given the Disney animation treatment. So, let's make all of the characters animals, let's put lots of songs in it, let's give it a happy ending. But beyond that, it's Hamlet. The rightful king is, murdered, tricked into death by his conniving brother, who then usurps the throne from the dead king's son. The dead king's son goes off to foreign lands with a couple of comedic sidekicks, and eventually comes back to face down his uncle. I mean, it's Hamlet, but with lions. And it's a great movie. So I think, it's important to recognise that you can make a great movie that is inspired by another work. And obviously, there's issues of copyright and things like that. So, don't go making a movie that's, about a small person who finds a magic ring and needs to throw it into a volcano, without talking to the Tolkien estate first, because things are going to go very badly for you if you don't. But with a work like Frankenstein, obviously, which is in the public domain, or Hamlet, again, there are ways to reinterpret the story. And even if you bought the rights to a book, think about the themes, not just think about, well, let's just put it on, let's just put the book on the screen. Think about the themes, explore the themes, engage with the themes, not with necessarily the specifics of the plot. So I like that this movie does that. Second thing, on a more sort of prosaic level, the film stars Tiffany Sheepis, who has an extensive career in low-budget horror. She's been in well over 100 films with exciting titles like Sludge, Ouija House, and Dr. Spine. In other words, films you probably haven't heard of unless, like me, you enjoy sifting through the modern-day equivalent of the DVD clearance bin. And if you are that kind of person, Amazon Prime and Tubi are your best bets for finding the modern day equivalent of the DVD clearance bin. In any case, I first encountered Miss Sheepis in the 2006 film Abominable, in which she basically turns up, takes her top off, and then gets eaten by Bigfoot. That's her whole role. She's dead in sort of the first 15 minutes or so. And a lot of her early career is of this ilk. She turns up in a secondary role, she flashes her admittedly impressively body, and then she gets killed off. Kind of like a modern day Linnea Quigley, except that Miss Sheepis is better at the actual acting part of the job, and is therefore able to work her way up into regular sort of leading lady status within this lower budget part of the market, as she is here. And she's a capable actor. She knows how to do this stuff. She delivers quite well in this film. And there are some films that Tiffany Sheep is in that are truly terrible. Because obviously, most people, a number of people who were senior in the sort of the production film didn't really care about making a good movie. I feel like the people making this film wanted to make a decent film within the constraints of their budget, and Miss Sheepis is she's a great choice for a role like this in a movie where they're actually trying, because she can lift herself to be as good as the movie wants her to be. I'm not sure that she could lift herself to be, the lead in a huge Hollywood blockbuster. I don't think she'll ever be given the chance, unfortunately. But she can carry a film like this that is trying to be a decent low-budget movie, and that means that I'll often, if I see a new movie with her in it, I'll at least give it a chance. Finally, I want to talk about what I do think is a flaw of the film, because I feel that the film undercuts itself with its structure. It positions most of the movie as Sheepis' character giving the FBI a statement about what happened. And perhaps, they framed this movie to give themselves it does result in a really punchy opening sequence, so perhaps that was the reason they did it. Perhaps they framed it this way as a nod to the structure of Mary Shelley's novel, which is an after-the-event narrative. It's a man writing a letter about conversations he's had with Dr. Frankenstein after Dr. Frankenstein has had the whole thing with the monster. And if it's the latter, like if it's a nod to the book, well, okay, yeah, it's a nice touch of the hat to the novel. But whatever the reason is, I do think it was a poor structural choice of the film itself. The tension of the film would build better if we simply saw events unfold as they happened. So, so Sheepis' character gets the job, they make the discovery, the guard has the things happen. Like, if we didn't know at the beginning of the film kind of where it's going, I think it would work better. It'd also free up the 10 minutes that are spent on interview films to focus on character development interaction. And I think the movie overall would have been stronger because it had a lower key, more understatedly creepy opening, and then a slow building of menace. And on a more fundamental level, a more chronological approach would also avoid silliness like having characters in a flashback having flashbacks. That's a crime that I haven't seen committed since Highlander. And I know this is nerd heresy, but however stylish it might be, Highlander is not a good film. Certainly from a structural perspective, it is terrible. Yeah, you shouldn't be copying that sort of thing. Yeah, don't do that. Flashbacks are bad enough. Flashbacks in flashbacks are ridiculous. But yeah, that's the Frankenstein Syndrome. I quite liked it. Certainly don't regret seeing it. Next time, I'm going to talk about 1973's Black Mama, White Mama, starring Pam Grier and Margaret Markov, who is probably much less well known than Ms. Grier is these days. So that'll be next time. In the meantime, I hope you've enjoyed this one, and thanks for watching.